Hey, Jim Wolf here with dating advice for men who love women. Did you know that the easiest way to attract the right woman for you is actually to give freely? Now, that might sound counterintuitive to you at first, because of course, if you just give everything to a woman, you give her a lot of gifts, you give her all of your time and energy right away, for example, that's actually not attractive. So of course, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's two paradigms that you can follow when you want to attract a woman. And those are number one, trying to get her, which is kind of the frame that most guys approach dating through. And then the other alternative is attracting her by giving freely. And that's what this presentation is all about. And by the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you several examples of what it actually looks like to give freely when you're dating a woman so that you can apply this philosophy yourself and get better results because of that. And I'm also going to go over a quick, powerful exercise at the end that will help you flip your mindset to this giving frame that's much more attractive to women. So now I just want you to think for a second about a peach tree. And what does a peach tree really want? Well, obviously a peach tree doesn't actually want anything, so this is just for the purposes of this presentation, so bear with me on this. What does a peach tree really want? Well, one of the things that it wants the most is to spread its seed far and wide. So it wants more peach trees like itself. And it also prefers if those peach trees grow up some distance away from itself because it doesn't want to compete for resources with its children. However, obviously that peach tree can't actually move anywhere. So how does that peach tree get what it wants? How does it spread its seed far and wide so that copies of itself grow up far away from itself? Well, a peach tree gets what it wants by producing delicious fruit that animals want to eat. And it offers them freely to those animals with its seed inside. And if it doesn't get what it wants. If a peach tree doesn't produce fruit or its fruit isn't delicious enough, it dies out. On the other hand, even though that's true, the peach tree also doesn't need every single peach to produce offspring in order to be successful. The peach tree gets what it wants if even just a few of its seeds get planted. And that concept is very important as well. Now, why are we talking about a peach tree in a presentation about dating and personal development? Well, because attracting women and business opportunities, customers, high quality friends, and money works exactly like that for us as well. How? Well, when you want something in life, it's almost always much easier to attract that thing by giving something freely for it that other people genuinely want than it is to try to get it some other way. And even more directly, when you're able to give something, you're able to get more of that specific thing much more easily. For example, if you're able to give money away, it's actually easier for you to attract more money than if you don't have any money to give away to start with. If you're able to share good emotions with other people, it's much easier to attract people who can share even more good emotions back with you than if you only put negativity into the world. And if you want more customers for your business, or you want to attract women, or you want to build a good relationship with a potential mentor who can help you get to the next level, it's much easier to do all of those things by giving freely, giving them something that they want freely with no expectations of getting anything in return, than it is to beg them to buy your product, date you, or mentor you, try to trick them into buying something from you, into dating you, or into mentoring you, try to convince them to buy your product, date you, or mentor you by telling them how awesome you are or how amazing your product happens to be. And so the key, like the noble peach tree does, is to look at things from their perspective. What is it that they actually want? What do your ideal customers actually need? And what does your ideal woman actually respond to when it comes to attraction and love? What are those things that raise her interest in you? And how can you give those things to her freely? That's the big question when it comes to dating. And here's the thing. Obviously, the peach tree that produces the most delicious peaches is the one that tends to get what they want the most. Animals will climb up a tree like that, pick the most delicious looking fruit they can find, devour it with the seed still inside, take it a good distance away, and then deposit that seed underground, wrapped in natural fertilizer that helps it grow even more. And by the way, this is also why vegetables tend not to taste very good. They don't want you to eat them, unlike the fruit of a peach tree. And here's another key. Nobody ever cuts down the peach tree that produces the most delicious peaches. People do everything they can to protect that tree. And it works exactly the same way for you. The more delicious fruit you produce for the world, the more good things you get, and the more everyone else wants to keep you around. The more you give freely, the more attractive you are. Now, again, you might be thinking something like, but doesn't that just put you in a position to get walked over and taken advantage of? And that's a really good question. But the answer is no, you're not going to get taken advantage of when you live your life this way for two reasons. Number one, in order to truly give freely, you have to take excellent care of yourself first. Producing fruit for the world starts with you taking great care of yourself. If you're not meeting your own needs and most of your wants for yourself on your own before you start producing things for the world, then you're not truly giving freely. You can only give freely if you truly don't need anything in return. And ironically, when you don't need anything in return, you generally end up getting a lot more in return. That's the ironic thing about this. If you truly give freely, you tend to get a lot more back than if you just walk around trying to get stuff. And then number two, you're not going to be taken advantage of because when someone takes advantage of you, you should stop giving freely to that person and spend less or no time with them. So you're not just going to constantly give freely to everyone all the time. You're going to do that by default. And if someone starts taking advantage of you, then you draw a boundary or a line there and you stop giving freely to that person. And you stop spending time with that person. It's very important to maintain strong boundaries for this to work properly. So the key is to lead with giving freely and then adjust your approach from there based on how the world responds to you. That's the best strategy for life, and it's the best strategy for attracting the right woman for you. And here's another thing about that. If that philosophy works for the peach tree, it works even better for you because there are two advantages that you have that the peach tree will never have. Number one, you can move. You're not stuck in one place your whole life. You can make sure your products get in front of your ideal customers. And you can move to where your ideal women hang out, for example. And being able to move while also giving freely allows you to be even more successful. And then the other advantage that you have over a peach tree is that you can produce more than one kind of fruit. While the best peach trees do a great job producing the most delicious peaches, the truth is that not everybody likes peaches. So part of giving freely is being empathetic and realizing that what other people want might not be the same thing as what you want. What someone else wants might not be the same thing that you would want. For example, women aren't attracted to the same things that men are. I know that's a revolutionary statement, but it's true. So, when you're on a date with a woman, consider that fact and give her what she actually wants and responds to, instead of what our society says she's supposed to want or what might sound good to you. And before we get into exactly how to do that, I just want to highlight one of the best examples of humans giving freely that I can think of that we all know about, and that is Red Bull. Red Bull's marketing department really understands this concept of giving freely. So what is it that Red Bull wants? Well, it wants people to buy a lot of Red Bull and to keep buying Red Bull. And what's Red Bull's main marketing strategy that allowed them to grow from a small company to the world's most dominant, profitable energy drink brand? Think about that for a second. What is their main marketing strategy? Well, their main marketing strategy is to have cute young women and athletic, cool young guys drive around in Red Bull vehicles and give free Red Bulls to people. Yep, they literally are giving away their product for free all the time as much as possible. Usually at events where people might really want an energy drink, and sometimes with a little fun literature about the company as well. Do they ask anyone to buy anything? Nope. Do they put any pressure on anyone? Definitely not. If someone doesn't want a free Red Bull from one of their reps, it's 100% okay with them. And most people are pretty excited to see them when they come around. Their whole marketing strategy is literally giving freely, and of course, you see the results. And now, just compare that approach with the approach of the beggar in front of your local grocery store. What does that beggar want? Well, he wants money from people so that he can buy food and or alcohol or something else. And what's his marketing strategy? Well, he just goes ahead and leads with the ask he's trying to get. He begs you to give him some money. He doesn't offer you anything. He doesn't give you anything freely. He tries to get something from you. He doesn't give you anything, especially something that you really want. And how does that strategy work out for him? Well, he probably gets enough money for the day by the time he's done. So it's not that that strategy doesn't work at all. However, he never really gets ahead. He probably doesn't feel really good about himself. And worst of all, nobody really wants to be around him. So at this point, it's pretty clear that giving freely is a much better strategy in life than begging or trying to get things from people some other way. And while that's really clear when we look at the case of Red Bull versus a beggar on the street, some guys still operate from that beggar mentality with women, or at least the kind of women that they really want to be with. And a lot of times they don't even really know that they're operating from that frame. It's just kind of what they do by default. So what we want to do is make absolutely sure that we're giving freely and we're in that frame instead of begging in order to attract the right women into our lives, so that we're following a strategy that works the best. Giving freely is the most effective strategy for attracting the right woman for you. And again, that doesn't mean that you should give a woman stuff. You should not give a woman flowers, chocolates, jewelry, gifts, etc. before she's your official girlfriend. And why not? Because even if you're giving her those things freely, her subconscious mind will start thinking that you're giving her those things just to get something from her. For example, you want her to like you more, so you give her something. You want her attraction. You want to sleep with her. You want her love, etc. And you're kind of trying to buy it by giving her stuff. And no woman wants to feel like she can be bought. So while you shouldn't give a woman actual gifts freely, you should give her what she actually wants and responds to freely. And when you do those things, you're also giving her the gift of feeling intense attraction and eventually love for an amazing guy like yourself. Your presence and the feelings you inspire inside her are the gifts that she really wants. Does that make sense? Awesome. So now let's go over 5 examples of how you can actually give freely in a real dating context so that you can get what you want more often, just like Red Bull does. So the first way that you can give freely when it comes to attracting the right woman for you is when you ask a woman out, just choose an activity that you think would be fun for both of you and invite her to join you. And also choose a day and time that work for you and invite her to join you. Don't put this on her. Don't ask her, hey, what do you want to do? You spend the time and energy to come up with a plan, and then you offer it to her freely. And now here's how this works. This is your job. It's your job to come up with this idea and to put it out there confidently. That's offering something freely to her. Okay, so if you think it would be fun to grab coffee and that's a great idea for a first date, you offer that to her. Hey, let's meet for coffee at Star Dollars on State Street at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. That's a very strong offer, and that doesn't make her do any of that logistical work. You're offering that freely to her. And then here's what happens. If she can't make the day and time that you offer her, and she's interested in going out with you, she's going to say something like, hey, that sounds fun, but I can't make it on Wednesday. Can we do it on Thursday instead? And then you adjust from there. So instead of asking her what her schedule is, you just offer her a day and time that works for you, and you offer that freely to her, and then you see how she responds and adjust it from there. And if she's interested in you, she'll let you know if it doesn't work and offer you a specific day and time when it does work for her. And the same thing goes with the activity that you choose. If you offer to take her to Mexican food and she doesn't like Mexican food, she'll just say something like, hey, that sounds fun, but I'm not really into Mexican food. Can we go to a Chinese restaurant instead? Or whatever. So what you want to do is offer her your idea and the day and time freely, and then see how she responds and adjust it from there. Don't make her do any of the logistical work. That's your role in this dance, so you're just going to offer that to her freely. And then number 2, when you playfully tease a woman, instead of waiting for her reaction, you're going to look away a little bit and kind of move your body a little away from her to take all of the pressure out of it. So what you're doing in this situation is you're offering her a playful challenge freely. You're not trying to get a reaction from her. You're not trying to get anything from her. You are giving it to her freely because you know it's something that actually makes her feel things that she wants to feel. And this is a huge paradigm shift for a lot of guys. You're not playfully teasing her to get her reaction or to get something from her. It's something that you're genuinely offering her that is a genuine gift. She wants to feel something for you. So what you're going to do is you're going to deliver a playfully challenging line, and instead of looking at her and just desperately waiting for her to react to it, you're going to turn away and you're going to smile with a satisfied look on your own face as if you're also amusing yourself, knowing that you just gave her something good. And that's a completely different approach than a lot of guys follow, and it's an approach that's much more effective. And then the third way that you can give freely when it comes to dating a woman is, number 3, make sure you're not going too far out of your way just to date her. So don't drive 3 hours to meet up with her. Don't stop doing something or cancel something that's really important to you just to go out with her. And why is that? Well, because if you do it this way, when you do spend time with her, you're giving her that time freely, and you won't be seeking an outcome so much. This is one of the biggest reasons why long distance is very difficult. Because if you have to drive 2 or 3 hours just to see a woman, that's a lot of time and energy, especially if you've only been on 1 or 2 dates with her, and you're not in a committed relationship yet. You're investing a lot more time and energy into that new thing than you normally would. And it might be fine at first, but over time, that extra energy and time that you have to spend just to see her could start causing resentment inside you, because that's not something that you can sustainably give freely. On the other hand, if you meet a woman for coffee in your hometown and you just walk 10 minutes from your house to see her, then there's no extra energy or time spent on that, and you won't build up any resentment, and you can easily give that to her freely. Now, those are 2 extreme examples, but you have to draw the line somewhere on this. And I say that's about 30 minutes, but of course that's up to you. So don't spend so much time and energy just to go out with someone that you just met, because you're not going to be able to operate from this giving freely frame if that's the case. And even if you don't start feeling resentment from it, she's going to start thinking in her female mind, doesn't this guy have any women who are closer to him that he can date? Why is he investing so much in me already when we don't even know each other yet? And that's going to push her away from you anyway. And so, in my opinion, you should limit yourself to about 30 minutes away from where you live or so in order to go on a date with a woman, because that way you can go on a date with her and it's not too much time and energy invested into it in the first, second, or third date. And then you're not going to be so dependent on some kind of outcome with her that you just invested a lot of your time and energy into. And then the next way that you can give freely when it comes to attracting a woman, number 4, is instead of seeking her approval, approve of yourself first, and then give her approval whenever she earns it. So after you playfully tease a woman and you're having fun with her for a few minutes, you can say something like, you know what, you seem like a really cool person. I'm curious. What's one thing I wouldn't know about you just by looking at you? That way you're giving her a little bit of approval and then showing her that you're giving it freely when you ask her to show you more. So you're giving her some approval, but it's not final approval like, oh, you're 100% amazing and I completely know you already. You're just saying like, so far, I think you're really cool. Show me some more. And that kind of push-pull with your approval is very powerful. And it's real, because you don't really know her that well yet if you're on a first or second date. So you don't want to give her a big compliment that you don't even know is true yet. So if you say she's such a great person on the first date, she's going to think you're insincere a little bit because you really don't know her yet. But if you say something like, you seem like a really cool person, that's a little more open-ended and you can give that compliment freely and then follow it up by saying something that allows her to share more of herself with you. So then you can say like, I'm curious, if you hit the lottery jackpot and never had to work again, what would you do and why? And that shows her that you like her so far, and at the same time, you want to see what else she has to offer. And that's you giving her approval freely. And that's very powerful. And it means that you're not seeking her approval. Most guys just try to convince a woman how awesome they are. On the other hand, when you give her a little bit of approval and then follow that up by asking her more about herself, now you're offering her approval and you're saying there's more available if she's even more awesome than you thought. And that's the dynamic that we want versus you seeking her approval. So you want to give your approval freely as she keeps earning it by being an awesome person. That's the philosophy that works the best. And then the last way that you can give freely when it comes to dating a woman that we're going to cover today, number 5, is when it comes to going for a kiss, you want to think of that as sharing a kiss with her instead of trying to get a kiss from her. So listen, women want to get physical just as much as you do, maybe even more. They just have different requirements for what makes it good. And since you're such an attractive man, it's awesome for her to get physical with you as long as she's attracted to you and comfortable with you, and you're sharing that physicality with her freely instead of trying to get it from her. Make sense? Excellent. Now remember, the human mind doesn't interpret something as a real gift if it's not given freely. If someone, especially a woman, suspects that you are even subconsciously trying to get something from them by giving them that gift, then it's not a real gift. However, when you give someone something with absolutely no strings attached and no expectations, that constitutes a real gift. And when someone receives a real gift with no strings attached, that fires up a mechanism in the brain that makes them want to reciprocate. People generally want to give back to people who give stuff to them freely. Look at the success of Red Bull, for example. People feel really good when they get something freely, and they naturally want to give something back. It's a very powerful motivator of human behavior. And that's when you start getting everything that you put out back times 10. This is true abundance. The key to abundance is giving freely, not receiving things. You receive a lot more when you give freely versus when you're out there just trying to get stuff all the time. And even if you don't receive something back directly from the person you're giving to at any given moment, it will definitely come back to you some way, somehow. And then, even if that doesn't happen, it's completely fine because you don't ever actually need anything to come back to you at all. Remember that we're taking great care of ourselves and meeting most of our own needs and wants, so we don't really need those things to come back. And when you don't need them to come back, you just kind of would like them to, or you want them to, that's when they come back to you times 10. That's how this philosophy works. So just keep producing a lot of delicious peaches, give them away freely, and a few of those peaches will pay off big time for you, especially when it comes to attracting women. And now, before we close out this presentation, let's do a quick exercise that will really change your mindset about this from trying to get to giving freely. So the first thing I want you to do is just pause this presentation and go grab a pen and paper or something to write with. You can do this on your notepad on your phone, on your laptop, or whatever. Just pause this presentation and go grab something to write with. Okay, great. Now what I want you to do is to write down on that piece of paper or on your phone or laptop everything that you seek from women. So write down what you're currently seeking from women on that sheet of paper, and write down as many as you can think of. For example, you might write down love, sex, approval, acceptance, companionship, friendship, laughter, adventure, etc. So just free flow this and write down everything that comes to mind. So go ahead and pause this presentation, go do that now, and then come back. Okay, excellent. And now the next thing I want you to do is to write down how you can give each item on your list to yourself. For example, if you wrote down love, you could write something like, I can love myself by eating well, working out, getting lots of sleep, and doing more things I enjoy. If you wrote down acceptance, you can say, I can work on accepting myself more every day. And if you wrote down approval, you could write something like, I can give myself positive reinforcement more often. So for each of those things that you wrote down that you're seeking from women right now, write down how you can give each of those things to yourself, and then come back. Okay, great. Just 2 more steps left. So the next thing that I want you to do is think about and write down how you can share each of those items on your list with women. So all the things that you're seeking from women, how can you offer those things to women instead? For example, if you wrote down love, you could write something like, I can focus more on giving my love freely than on trying to get it from women. Or if you wrote down acceptance, you could write something like, I can give a woman genuine approval as she earns it instead of seeking her approval. So pause this presentation, and for each of the items that you wrote down that you're seeking from women, write down how you might be able to offer those things to women instead. And then when you're finished, come back for the last step. Excellent. So the last thing that I want you to do for this exercise is think about and write down how you can share each of the items on your list with the world around you in general. This is very similar to the last step. So in the last step, we talked about how you can share all the things that you're seeking from women with women that you're dating. Now I want you to take an even further step back and ask yourself, how can I share each of those things with the world in general? So for example, if you wrote down love, you could write something like, I can hook up my single guy friends with awesome women that I meet. Or if you wrote down acceptance, you could write something like, I can give people genuine compliments more often instead of always pointing out their flaws. Or if you wrote down that you're seeking good emotions from women, you could write something like, I can smile at people with my eyes to make their day a little better as I walk by them, etc. So pause the presentation right now. Write down how you can offer all those things that you're seeking from women with the world around you in general. And then, if you want, come back for some final thoughts. Okay, great. I hope that exercise really starts opening your mind to how you can start giving freely versus trying to get in your dating life and in your life in general. And the key to all of this is to find a way to meet your own needs and wants as much as possible, and then go out in the world and produce as much delicious fruit for everyone else as you can. Because when you actually live your life that way, that's when you start powerfully attracting everything that you want into your life. And it also takes a lot of pressure off you when you don't really need anything from anyone else. You've heard of neediness being kind of a female repellent and a world repellent. Well, this is how you stop being needy, by taking great care of yourself and offering things to the world freely instead of trying to get things. And when you give freely instead of trying to get things, you don't start building up anger and resentment inside yourself when things don't come back to you because you simply don't expect them to or need them to. This is a true abundance mentality. And not only is this a great way to live, it's also the best possible strategy for actually getting everything that you want. So from now on, you're just the kind of guy who takes great care of himself and then approaches the world and women from the frame of giving freely. And if you want to be able to give the right woman for you everything that she wants and needs when it comes to a romantic relationship, go grab your copy of our best-selling Attract and Keep Her system right now. Inside the Attract and Keep Her system, you'll discover exactly what to do, step by step, from the first moment that you meet a woman that you're interested in until she falls deeply in love with you and becomes your girlfriend and or your wife. And then how to keep her in love as long as you want to be together, and how to build a relationship that's satisfying for both of you as long as you want to be together. So again, if you haven't already, go to attractandkeepher.com/system. That's attractandkeepher.com/system, and grab your copy right now. And as a thank you for checking out this presentation, we have some free gifts for you as well. And here's the thing, I always try to practice what I preach as much as possible. I'm not perfect at it, but I really strive to do that because I think that's really important. And so I have something that I'm offering you freely with no strings attached and no expectations. And you can get those free gifts that we're offering you today by going to datingadviceformenwholovewomen.com. That's datingadviceformenwholovewomen.com. I'm Jim Wolf with Dating Advice for Men Who Love Women, and I'll talk to you later.